Hall has been made. And the Utah Symphony, Smith Entertainment Group, and the Mayor's Office are committed to working collaboratively towards the mutual goal of ensuring that Salt Lake City continues to enjoy the highest quality symphony hall that meets the needs of its professional musicians and community. For more than a year, the Utah Symphony and Salt Lake County have worked on a comprehensive master plan for renovations to Abravanel Hall aimed at addressing its critical needs. This plan includes ensuring ADA compliance, upgrading both front and back of house facilities, enhancing acoustical quality, technology upgrades, and modernizing the cooling and heating systems. Costs to comprehensively address these longstanding issues are estimated in the hundreds of millions of dollars. The Sports, Entertainment, Culture, and Convention District has the potential to accelerate and improve upon the ways in which these longstanding challenges will be addressed, amplify the symphony's presence in the community, expand access to the arts, provide the best environment for the symphony's artists to carry out their work, and improve patron experience in a meaningful way. The conversations are in the very early stages, but there is a clear commitment to providing a world-class concert hall that continues to build upon the Utah Symphony's legacy and that of its legendary music director, Maurice Abravanel. To that end, we need to weigh all factors, including the high cost of renovation, alongside the benefits of rebuilding. With recognition of the importance of stakeholders and the community joining in on this critical conversation, exploration of a sports, entertainment, culture, and convention district will continue deliberately and strategically to ensure an extraordinary outcome for downtown Salt Lake City and Utah's vital arts and cultural communities. So with that was quite wordy, but I think the net message is we're not done having conversations about the future. We are looking for an east-west connection. I think that's really vital. We're also looking at what can we do with our Salt Palace. There are areas that are less utilized than others. We're willing to make changes there. There is a price tag. We have to address financial issues and needs on both fronts, but we are at the table looking at if we are moving to this next phase, how do we do it? How do we serve the broader interest of the community? And I look forward to further discussion today and appreciate each of you, and thank you so much for having me here today.
Thank you, Mayors. Mike, before you start, can I do some housekeeping that I was too excited to do before? Since we have so many people and new faces, I do want to remind all of you that this is a work session. There is no public comment during a work session. There will be public comment on May 21st dedicated to this topic. And of course, you're always welcome to come and comment during the general comment period when it's not on the agenda. So you could come back tonight and comment during general comment on this. We do have some rules of decorum. They're designed so that we can conduct city business, ensure that the meeting is safe, orderly, and free from intimidation. The following rules help us maintain that safe and welcoming environment. They are rules of decorum, and going forward, there will be no more warnings. If anyone does not follow the rules of decorum, then you will be directed to immediately leave the room. Thank you. Mike, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much for having us here today. It's an honor to be here with you all. I think you're all familiar. My name is Mike Mon. I'm with Smith Entertainment Group. I'm the principal from SEG that will be leading this project, and I'll be leading all of our efforts in the development and reimagination of downtown, and look forward to this collaborative process and working with so many members of this community, of this council, and of this state. Ryan Smith and I have partnered on basically everything for the last 11 years, including I lead the chairman's office at Qualtrics. With him right now, we co-founded Five for the Fight together and do all the things from purchasing the Jazz, investing in Real Salt Lake and the Royals, and was instrumental in working with him in getting this new NHL team here. And so we're thrilled to have this opportunity. Most immediately, I'm thrilled to be able to work with all of you and with this amazing community on all of the things that we're working on together. As we move forward, I just want to acknowledge at the very beginning that I know that there are so many questions. And we don't have answers to all of those questions, but what we can answer, we will. And what we don't have answers to, we will work as quickly as possible to get those answers, to make sure that everyone is aware of what we are doing. You're all familiar with the fact that just 2 weeks ago, Commissioner Bettman from the NHL joined us here in Utah and announced that we would be getting a new NHL team. In that press conference, he said that the conceptualization for this plan had begun at that time 6 weeks ago, so now 8 weeks ago, and only began in earnest 4 weeks before that. And so we are moving very quickly. We acknowledge that and acknowledge that we're working very, very quickly to get everybody the answers that we want. I also want to acknowledge with Mayor Wilson, there are many that we have not had a chance to meet with, but we're incredibly grateful for so many community leaders, including every member of this council, that we have had the opportunity to meet with over the last few weeks and even months. That includes the Visit Salt Lake Board, the Downtown Alliance, the Salt Lake Chamber of Commerce, the Symphony Board, members of the Japanese community for Japantown, elected officials, and many business leaders, et cetera. As Mayor Wilson talked about in this statement, when we look at this reimagination of downtown, we refer to this as a sports, entertainment, culture, and convention district. I think there has been some too much conversation probably about a sports and entertainment district. So I want to reemphasize that. Sports, entertainment, culture, and convention district. That's incredibly important to us. For us to have a thriving downtown core, it has to have all of those different pieces. And that's why we're very committed to everybody working together on this process and making sure that those elements are all central to what we're trying to do is reimagine downtown. Now, we've talked about and submitted in our application to the city that there are 3 primary blocks that the sports, entertainment, culture, and convention district will build upon. That's the Delta Center block and the 2 blocks just east of that as you're leading toward City Creek. Now, I want to also state very clearly, going along with the mayor's statement, joint statement that she just read, we at Smith Entertainment Group want a Bravenel Hall on site. We at Smith Entertainment Group want UMOCA on site. Again, this is a sports, entertainment, culture, and convention district. 2 of the most important elements of our culture and arts programs here in Salt Lake City, Salt Lake County, and the state of Utah and this region are those. And we want them on site and want that to be very clear unequivocally. When it comes to Salt Lake County and the Salt Palace, and Mayor Wilson's happy to address this, I'll address this more. The Salt Palace is an incredible facility. As Mayor Mendenhall noted, it is largely the convention center for this entire community and area beyond just the state of Utah. Now, Qualtrics, we just had our major convention there, our X4 Experience Management Summit last week, involving over 10,000 of our clients and inviting everyone there. We do that every year. It's a good experience. But the convention center is also, as Mayor Wilson noted, that there was a lot of deferred maintenance on a Bravenel Hall that needs to be done. The convention center also is poised for some renovation to look at what conventions will look like into the future. The hall that we have right now is not the hall that we need for the convention spaces of the future, with more meeting rooms, additional ballroom space, et cetera, that will allow us to capitalize so much more on the conventions that could be coming here. So as Mayor Mendenhall noted, she used the word catalytic. This opportunity we have right now is catalytic to help us do a lot of things that need to be done anyway in this entire area and in the reimagination of downtown that allow us to do this in a unified and cohesive way instead of a rather piecemeal way where things don't necessarily come together by themselves. Let me address the arena situation. I've said publicly before, we'll say it again, if some person came and waved a magic wand and plopped the very best state-of-the-art, perfect arena for hockey and basketball on the site where the Delta Center is right now, and nothing else in downtown changed, we would not do it. We would not do that. What we want to do here is a very mission-driven thing where we want to help reimagine the future of downtown Salt Lake, and where we are committed to those four principles: sports, entertainment, culture, and convention. This has to be about imagining a place where all of us can come together in a meaningful way downtown, and where this has to work for everybody. SEG will be investing billions of our own dollars in downtown Salt Lake City. And we are committed to making sure that we do that in a way that benefits the entire community. Now, the money from this tax, should the council approve it, some of that will, of course, go to help the renovation of the Delta Center to fit hockey into the arena. Hockey, if you're not familiar, a hockey rink is nearly twice the size of a basketball court. So you can imagine trying to squeeze that in doesn't totally work. So some of that money will go there, but I want to be very clear, a lot of that money will also go to the development of this entire district downtown, the sports, entertainment, culture, and convention district. It will help be home to some of these community spaces, gathering spots where people can come together. We're in deep conversations with the Olympics, for example, about putting the Metals Plaza right in the center of this downtown district where we can bring many people together. It will also bring together many in the community. If we could go advance to the next slide. Thank you. So I know Dee is here. This comes from the Downtown Alliance. Sports, arts, and entertainment are driving downtown visitation. Again, this goes to the whole point of having sports, entertainment, culture, and convention. Next slide, please. Of the most visited days in downtown Salt Lake City, 76% of those had an event at the Delta Center. 72% had a convention in town. These are major drivers to bringing people downtown to the economic development of our city center. Next slide, please. On an annual basis, if you look at the economic impact of the Utah Jazz and the Delta Center in a 2022 report done by GSBS Consulting and peer-reviewed by the Kim Gardner Institute, showed that the Utah Jazz and Delta Center had a $326 million annual total economic impact on Salt Lake City. Now that number has gone up considerably. I will say in the 3.5 or so years since Smith Entertainment Group took over the Jazz, revenues from sponsorships, for example, alone have risen over 300%. We've brought in a lot of outside dollars to the state that were not here before, including the Delta Center sponsorships with American Express and others. As we've run a new total economic impact report on the NHL, it's estimated that the NHL alone will bring an additional $288 million of economic impact into Salt Lake City. And that's just the city. There's more and greater economic impact to the state as a whole, just to the city. Next slide, please. And then when we look at, those are annual basis. On an episodic basis, we still have other things like the All-Star Weekend. All-Star Weekend brought in $294 million of economic impact. Or if you look at just the UFC fights that we did not have before, we've had two now. The most recent UFC fight brought in $279 million of economic impact. It was estimated 27. Sorry, what did I say?
That's a big 279, but that's okay.
Well, guys, thank you. Points matter. 27.9, it was estimated that over 69% of visitors came from out of state and stayed for an average of 2.4 hotel nights, for example. Next slide, please. Now, this is a rendering that we released in January. I want to be very clear and give context to this. This is just a rendering. It is meant to give people an idea of how this can feel and some of the principles that the development as we view it will be based upon. But please don't start looking at this store or that building and try to understand what goes where. It wasn't meant to be that, and I just want to be very clear contextually. This is to give some idea as to what it is, but is not in any way our site planning for the site. But I do think it's helpful to look at this and think through some of the principles that will guide the downtown development and the reimagination that we will do in collaboration with the entire community and invite everybody's participation in. One of the things that we look at when we look at downtown Salt Lake City, there are some walls that exist that inhibit kind of the flow of the city. So if you look at Gateway on one side of the Delta Center, that is all inward-facing retail. and creates a bit of a wall on that side. If you look at the Salt Palace, it also creates a large wall dividing the east and west sides of downtown Salt Lake City. One of the things that we hope this communicates as a principle is that we want to break down these walls and restore connectivity and flow, reuniting the east and west sides of downtown and reuniting the city and creating this flow and connectivity that hasn't existed in a long time. If you think about the Delta Center right now and look at the front door to the Delta Center, it opens up to a parking lot. It doesn't open up to the rest of downtown. You look at the Salt Lake, the Salt Palace, and the front door to that opens out a very different direction. You look at the door to a Bravanel, yet a different direction. Now, I don't know what your teeth were like when you were young. I was in desperate need of braces. And I would say that downtown has a bit of our teeth in every direction and is in need of some braces. And this gives us the opportunity to reimagine downtown together, put braces on that smile, and put us forward so that we can develop in a cohesive and comprehensive way that makes our downtown the envy of the world in a way that we can bring people together. Now, what this image does is it shows a reoriented front door to the Delta Center. Instead of opening up into a parking lot, it would open up east into the entire district, facing all the way up into City Creek and connecting that whole thing. That's one example of sort of the principles upon which the development are based. I also want to acknowledge that as we do this, things that we've heard from the community, things we've heard from you, things that we've heard just in best practices as we've looked at sports, entertainment, culture, and convention districts throughout the country, there are some very important principles that we will hold very fast to in all of this. One is walkability. We need to have a walkable city, and part of our goal for connectivity and flow means that it has to be very walkable. Another principle, this has to be a place that is safe. Families and individuals have to want to come down here, and it has to be a very safe, engaging place for everyone in our community to come and to gather. Sustainability is incredibly important to us. The sustainability team here in Salt Lake City just has an incredible reputation. We look forward to working very closely with them and other members of the community to make sure that this project is built in a sustainable way. Another principle, economic development. This has to be done in a way that leads to great economic development for the entire city, county, and surrounding community, and which will lead to a growth in the general fund in order to support citywide services. Another principle, the activation of downtown. Again, whether you come to a sporting event ever or not is not about what this district is about. It's about activation of all of these different spaces, and we want to bring everything together. Another major principle, the incorporation of community partners. We've already talked about many of the groups we've met with. We will continue to meet with many groups, and we will have lots of opportunity for community input on what we're doing. A cohesive transportation plan and sustainable and organized parking. Those are two core elements that we also look at when we're looking at this, and an increase in arts, cultural, and community gatherings. Those are some of the principles that we will rely on deeply as we go through this entire thing. Next, I want to hit on the idea of community involvement. I feel like there have been many questions about when and how the community will be involved. Again, we have met with and will continue to meet with many leaders and organizational leaders and want the community to be involved in the days, weeks, months ahead as we go through all this. I'll just give one example of how SEG feels about the community and how we try to involve the community. Tomorrow, we will be releasing a survey inviting the entire state to help us name the new NHL team. We've partnered with Doubleday and Qualtrics to do this. We've talked about it before, but we'll be releasing that tomorrow. We'll have several rounds of voting. We want the entire community to feel part of that. The NHL team we view as a community asset, and that means the community gets to be involved in every portion of that. So many of you saw when we invited the NHL team and had this Welcome to Utah event, we opened the doors to the Delta Center. We provided free food and access and community involvement, so much so that every seat was filled. And unfortunately, or fortunate, thousands of people had to watch the event on the plaza because every seat in the arena was already filled. We will continue to have events like that all the time, where we invite the community involvement in what we're doing as we look at the reimagination of downtown. I hope those give a sense of the way that we view this and the way that we want to continue to involve the community in everything that we're doing, because we view this as a community asset and something that we're trying to do together. When it comes to feedback and communication, we are working actively to stand up an online portal in the coming weeks where we can solicit feedback from the community and where we will be able to provide up-to-date information at all times regarding what we're doing and make sure that everyone has a single source that they can go to both provide feedback and input and to gather any information on the project that we're doing. Now, in closing, I know I've talked for a while. Let me just say this, we still have a lot to figure out, and I know that. We've worked with many in this community and will continue to do that. I know this started in January when we asked the NHL for an expansion team. The NHL surprised us with a new solution and asked us to help them out of a tricky situation. And so we've instead taken a new team, but much more quickly. We're very excited about that, but I want to just be very clear about a few things. We are committed to working with all parties on the reimagination of downtown, and we are committed to making this work. We know that there is a lot that needs to happen. We want to be in downtown Salt Lake City. We want to develop the mission of this sports, entertainment, culture, and convention district, and we want to work with everybody and are very optimistic that we're going to make something unbelievably special happen here. We are committed to working collaboratively with the community. We're committed to reimagining a downtown that will work for everyone. And again, whether you ever go to a sporting event or not, we will have concerts, we'll have housing, we'll have arts and culture, we'll have food and beverage, we'll have community gatherings, we'll have convention visitors, economic development, loads of new jobs, and again, community involvement. We will bring big brands downtown, but we're also going to bring a lot of amazing local businesses, a lot of amazing local restaurants. That's very important to us, that this community feels involved, is involved, and has a very important seat at the table. We want to not just, we will have amazing brands, but we want to highlight what is special and unique to Salt Lake City, and that means these local businesses, and it means these local restaurants, and it means working with this local community. We're committed to the sports, entertainment, culture, and convention district, and very grateful for the opportunity to be here today.
Thank you, Mike. I think it's important to acknowledge that the last time we brought a major league sports franchise, none of your elected officials were here. I don't even think our staff were here, as tenured as they are. And you guys were probably still in a garage doing some Qualtrics stuff, trying to, pierce into the tech scene. So this is definitely something new that we're trying to do. And thank you for being a good, transparent partner with us as we try to figure out what that looks like for all of us. Council members, I hope you have your notepad because the questions are about to come. Council members, who would like to open? Everyone is bashful.
I'll
my
start.
gosh.
I'll start. How
All
about
right,
that?
Councilwoman.
Well,
Lovis
look,
Chavez.
thank you, Mike, for coming in, and thank you, Mayor Mendenhall and Mayor Wilson. We greatly appreciate the excitement and the enthusiasm as the representative of downtown. It's exciting for me. We have over 20,000 deposits of season ticket sales for NHL. That's a great accomplishment. Do you know, you mentioned the some of this funding going to the arena updates. Do you happen to know how much funding will go from the 0.5% sales tax increment to help invest in the arena upgrades?
So we're looking very closely at the entire arena renovation and everything that will require right now. We do not have a final number, but we will be looking very closely at that. I will say the cap that will be placed on anything that Smith Entertainment Group is able to receive by virtue of the participation agreement being negotiated with the city is $900 million. Of that money, some of that will go, of course, to the renovation, but a lot of that will also go to the rest of this district. And any money beyond that raised for the tax will be used for the rest of the district, and no additional money would come to Smith Entertainment Group.
Do we have any idea when, as we decide things like what the tax money can be used for, it seems important to know what we're working towards. Do we have any idea about the synchronizing? I realize we are building this airplane as we're flying it, and you're talking to the county about property while you're talking to us about land use. Do we have any idea if there's hope that we sync that up in time so that we can be specific in the partnership agreement, or is that going to be a subsidiary agreement that we're going to come to after some generalities? Because that September 1st deadline is real tight.
Sorry, so which part are we saying, what will that be part of the
So
participation agreement?
as part of the statute, we're deciding
Right.
where we can spend the taxes. But it sounds like because things are so conceptual right now, we're not even sure if we're putting sidewalks in one area or if it's a full walking mall, how many light poles are going to be required, all those things that would fall under public infrastructure. So are you anticipating any alignment of the plans within that September 1st framework, or are we going to have a looser agreement that will be updated through later negotiations?
Can I take a stab? The legislation that was passed that enables us to raise our sales tax that the state has put the capacity on outlines that there's a 100-acre district, 100 acres, right? Not 110.
Up to 100 acres.
Up to 100-acre district, and that within that, this 900 million can come to play as capital investment. It doesn't require us to become specific, to my knowledge, and there's attorneys in the room who can come up here and correct me. But I don't know that we need to go beyond the enabling words that are in the legislation in our partnership agreement.
The legislation does dictate generally what the money can be spent on. That will be in the participation agreement. Nothing beyond that can be included. But can this be spent on infrastructure, sidewalks, et cetera? Of course.
Councilwoman Young, and then Councilmember Wharton.
Thank you. I appreciate you coming here today and clarifying some of the misconceptions that I think have been, running around. I think there's a lot of excitement, but I think there's still a lot of questions. And one of the questions that I have, mainly for both of our mayors, is just related to how this project presents both an opportunity and any challenges you've noted related to the future of downtown and the vision that you've established related to other projects, and most importantly, I guess to me and some of the other citizens, opportunities related to our future as a city for the Olympics. So I'm wondering if either mayor would be willing to speak to how this fits into that broader picture of downtown.
When I describe this opportunity of the NHL team coming to Salt Lake City as the key on the table, I'm not stretching in the vision here. There are few things that I could imagine that could happen here in opportunities that could come to Salt Lake City, not even the Olympics actually, that could be powerful enough economically to cause the convention industry in the county, the arts and culture that are anchored downtown, and the city to come together and say, for this, we are going to transform the infrastructure of these institutions in a way that mutually benefits, as Mike said. It has to work for everybody. I'm not going to sit here and say that downtown is designed perfectly. It's not. Despite that, we had one of the strongest downtown recoveries in the nation coming out of the pandemic. And some of the numbers from the Downtown Alliance that Mike shared they help to illustrate how there's really no question for me that the economic hub of the downtown engine is the Delta Center. To add 41 additional professional sports games to the calendar that they've already built, as they've already begun to put pencil to paper and have it peer reviewed by the Policy Institute, it will be an economic generator for the downtown. But what's most important is that we be able to improve across all levels, the connectivity, the walkability. We talk about Main Street pedestrianization. We talk about a green loop that can encircle our downtown core. We invest in public transportation expansion with our partners at UTA. We give our residents rebates to get e-bikes. We've never been able to imagine taking down the wall that the Salt Palace creates between the east and west sides of the downtown core. Only an opportunity like this can do that. And I think by doing so, it also, working with 3 blocks of the downtown core, actually leverages opportunities like the Olympics to no longer have a medals plaza that's torn down in the weeks after the Paralympics ends. We deserve better. The city is growing in a way that it can support better. Our doubling residential population downtown needs and wants a better downtown experience. And this is the key to all of these elements. I think we're sitting here humbly recognizing that this happened fast. There's a lot of conversations that haven't happened yet to help us get to the point where everyone can say, this is better for us. But that's what this is an opening for.
Well, thank you. And the mayor touched on much of what I would offer, except to say that I do think if you look at the east side of downtown and the investments made, I may remember a few years back where Main Street needed attention. Many of your leadership, even in other capacities before you were here, invested in change things there. We could go right now, maybe we should when we're done, and wander down Main Street and have a lot of opportunities for great restaurant experience. And the decision by the mayor's predecessor and the county to invest in arts and culture with the opening and now thriving Eccles Theater is amazing. We continue at Salt Lake County to invest in arts and culture. That side of the city, just downtown, is impressive. It's doing incredibly well. There's always things that we need to work on together, county, city, or other partners, but it's incredible. You look at the investment in City Creek, and I think in many respects it met the mission, but we also saw a changing nature to retail. And then you get to the Salt Palace, and while Qualtrics can come in, I'm told it was amazing, and put a lot of money into the Salt Palace, it's quirky. It has some limitations. We overbuilt our exhibit halls for outdoor retailers. They left, they came back, they're not as large as they were, and conventions are doing things differently. So right now we're really needing another ballroom. There isn't a revenue stream to do what we need to do were it not for this opportunity. So we at Salt Lake County, who own and operate the convention facility, is incredibly excited about the opportunity to supercharge our convention industry. We're doing really well. Along with the recovery of the city, the convention industry here recovered faster than any, and there are a lot of reasons for that. But for us to move towards that Olympic experience in 10 years, we can do even better with our convention industry. And we know that when people leave the hall at night, some of the opportunities are sort of dispersed. So being able to create this reinvigorated space not only connects east to west in a way that is incredibly important, it's going to help us address some of the frankly not so attractive dock areas on the other side next to the new Love Meridian. It will benefit Japantown. And I want to be clear, never once in our meetings to date has there ever been an interest in tearing down churches. I want to be clear about that. We honor the Japanese Church of Christ, the Buddhist Temple, the Cultural Center, the current assets, you do as well. So there's only upside as we look at opportunity for Japantown and a revitalization of the convention industry and that connectivity. Those are the upside. The challengers are just getting this right. As the county looks at its limited revenue streams, we look at the amount 0.5 generates, and we're gonna have to do some work. So we're doing that work now. We're looking at options. If you look at either a rebuilding of a Bravenel Hall on site or if the choice is that we just renovate, it's still a multi-$100 million investment. We don't want to not make the investment one way or the other and leave it as is. So there's a challenge, right? How do we get that right? How do we honor all of the community groups that are in the area and do it in the right way?
Thank you. I appreciate that answer. And I just also want to extend appreciation to both mayors, the administration, and the staff behind you who fought for Salt Lake City. This wasn't a foregone conclusion, and I'm incredibly grateful to both of you and the people behind you to make sure that Salt Lake City and downtown Salt Lake City is the home of these opportunities. So thank you.
We're going to go Councilmember Wharton, Councilmember Pui, Councilmember Mono, and then Councilmember Dugan. We are over time. I'm happy to rearrange the rest of the agenda. Let's be concise.
Just also want to echo the thanks that we do have this opportunity. I think that that decisions could have been made that would have taken this out of Salt Lake City and Salt Lake County, or would have incentivized that. And I'm really glad that SEG and that both of our mayors, who are always fighting for Salt Lake City, but to have SEG join us and help in that fight. This is a really exciting opportunity, but I also understand the concern and all the questions that I'm getting from the residents that that want to. I mean, a big change like this is bound to cause a lot of questions and have a little bit of trepidation. And my residents, which this is on the northern, so the northern border of this would be the southern border of my my district, and just 700 feet to the north, you know, you got a residential area. And I want to welcome this to our neighborhood. And I want this to be something that our neighborhood is excited about, and where people want to move to Marmalade or Capitol Hill because they want the proximity to something like this. So there are just three things that I hope that are kind of top of mind for me, that I hope that you'll keep in mind as we go through these talks. And that's that breaking down walls, I think, is great. I love that about this proposal. I want to make sure that we aren't reconstructing different walls in different places that inadvertently wall off one community or another. And so that's going to take a lot of planning. But I know that we can do that. Also, if we choose to pass this tax, or we vote to pass this tax, residents are going to be investing in this every single day with almost every purchase that they make, other than unprepared food and the other exceptions that are set by state law. And I want them to feel like the benefits, like SEG and our other partners are investing in them too. And that this is not, the benefits are not flowing one way and the burdens are not flowing the other, that this is something that we're doing together, and that this is mutually beneficial, and this is a mutual investment in Salt Lake City and for our residents. And then third, that everybody sees something positive and something that they can relate to in this vision. So, you know, I like to say that I am an avid indoorsman. Not a big sports person, although I am very excited about this opportunity. I want to know that I really appreciate the commitment that you made, and that you made a point of saying Mayor Wilson, you reading your statement talking about that we want to have the art on this plaza, we want to have the Symphony Hall, we want to have a cultural component, we want to highlight the diversity of Utah and Salt Lake City that I think often is not seen. So I hope that every resident can see something that they can benefit from. And I guess even if you don't see yourself going to any of those venues, that you know that this is generating revenue for Salt Lake City that's going to help us pave streets in the future, that's going to help us keep our city safe, and keep all of those revenue streams going into the future. So thank you for all that. or thank you for listening to me through all of that. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. I just quickly, I wanted to acknowledge transparency from your group. It means a lot to me. Hopefully it means a lot to all of us, and I think it does. That, what you said from the beginning is what you are saying right now, and nothing has changed. That means a lot. Bringing the county, the city, and we're all friends, but bringing the county, the city, the Church of Jesus Christ, and private entities, business owners all together in one room, and acknowledging that we can do something greater together is huge, 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 huge. We cannot underestimate. That should be highlighted. While we have questions and trepidations and nervous because fears are always there, we need to acknowledge that is a huge mountain you moved. And I just want to acknowledge that some things don't have monetary value. Fixing walkability, fixing some of these other issues that we have seen, this divide between this, what the Salt Palace creates, don't have monetary value necessarily. Fixing the wrongs of what it was done to Japantown over decades and decades. It's not really a monetary value, but it's of importance. Certainly to me and to many of us, of great importance and key to this. To acknowledge that, I hope that no one in this group leaves the table. That we can push each other a little bit, and we can share ideas, even if we disagree, but that we stay at the table to build something better. But just the last question I have, I'm going fast. Is that I want to know specifically if we have calculated how much money this potential tax increase will create, and also what SCG is bringing to the table as far as investment on this.
So SCG will be putting billions of dollars downtown. Our very preliminary estimate is at least $3 billion. I anticipate that it will be much more. As we dive in and figure out all of those things. The tax is looking to create $1.2 billion over the 30-year period. Again, SCG is limited by the participation agreement to $900 million. Again, all of that will not be going to the arena. Much of that will still be going into the district, and anything beyond that will also be going into the district as a whole.
I'll try. Okay, so Mike, I'm not one of the 20,000 people that put a deposit on tickets. I'm not the biggest sports guy here. 29,000. I'm not one of those people, but I am an architect, and I've been educated to look at cities and to look at design decisions of the past, and to think through what was happening at the time that those decisions were made, and were those good decisions, or are we living with some things that we need to repair? And so a lot of what you all talked about today is we have a big wall in the middle of our city. That's not good. It completely separates the center of our city from the west side of our city, and tearing that down and being able to reconnect those two things is a great idea. So I appreciate what Mayor Mendenhall said, that none of us, 6 months ago, none of us would have even thought of saying, let's completely refigure the Salt Palace. It wasn't, and so I understand how big this opportunity is. I also know that the people that made decisions when they first built the Salt Palace, or when they put freeways in, thought that they were doing the best that they could in a lot of cases. And I'm really, really nervous that we are going to do something now that we think is the best thing for the future, and we're all going to look back when we're in wheelchairs and walkers and think, what the heck were we thinking at doing what we did? So I'm really nervous. The speed of this makes me really nervous. And whatever we can do to make sure that there are many checks for years to come, to make sure that the public, the elected officials, whoever those might be at the time, are able to make course corrections and steer this in the right direction. I'm very, very nervous about saying sometime this year, yes, we'll increase taxes, and then we don't see you all again, and we'll see you, of course, but we won't see Mike's team again, and then something will happen, and we won't have that. The public won't have that input, that opportunity for input. So that makes me really, really nervous. You did all touch on it a little bit, but I would like to ask, specific to Japantown, what are some of the things that you think that this opportunity, just like we mentioned, it could be a huge opportunity for things that need to be done at the Salt Palace. What are some of the specific things that you think Japantown can see from this that maybe we couldn't have seen before? What are the low-hanging fruits, and what are the things that might be a stretch but are worth aiming towards?
I'll let the mayor answer that. I just want to state very clearly to everybody here, we are not leaving the table. We will be here at the table. We've been at the table. We will continue to be at the table. I promise you, we will be listening to the community's feedback. We will be soliciting that. We will be in meetings. So I hope that, I know nobody here knows me that well, though I've known you a long time. But I give you my word, and I promise my word matters a lot to me. We are not leaving the table.
Thank you.
So,
One thing that is different now than when that wall was built is you. You're not a commission from wherever in the city. You're a council, and you represent your neighborhoods. And you're the most diverse council that we've ever had. And you're bringing a far more representative lived experience than we had when that wall was built. I think when we looked at Japantown as a city council back in 2017, 18, we funded the process with the RDA. We were just looking at the public right-of-way, the parts that the city owns and controls, the streets, sidewalks, curb gutter, opportunities for art. Tonight I'm going to present my budget to you, and you're going to see some big recommendations to start to implement the vision of Japantown. There's a little teaser. But what we didn't think about is how economic growth of a far more significant scale than we imagined when we did that visioning process could support different kinds of private investments, other county and city potential investments in community benefit opportunities. And I am interested in having the conversations, and we have a meeting coming up shortly with the community, but we're gonna have more conversation about how could the assets that the community owns maybe even be expanded, enhanced? What are those needs and interests? What could happen with the community center? What could we imagine with future ZAP taxes that could come to play? That's something we never did before. So I don't want to suppose to know what the community wants specifically, but I know that we haven't even scratched the surface of the conversation beyond the pieces that the city owns in the right-of-way.
Thank you.
If I could just add and I think I shared this with you, council member, but one of the most meaningful journeys for me was to Delta, Utah, and to really understand the injustice that America provided on the Japanese community after World War II. I have known people who were at our Delta, Utah site in those years as young children. And it's a very emotional journey. So I would recommend everyone travel out there on a Saturday afternoon and go through that experience. I don't want to, as not a member of the Japanese community, lay out any plans, and I think that's generally what Mayor Mendenhall just shared, but I do think that there is a unique story here that should be told. I do think looking at the photos and hearing the stories of the what was seen as a future-driven revitalization of downtown, and years later we realized we made mistakes. Yet I appreciate your particular eye towards that, and I think, frankly, there's only upside right now compared to where we are for the Japanese community, and I look forward to
engagement in the months to come as we figure this out together.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, and thank you for articulating your vision. I really appreciate that articulation, and I also really appreciate the vision. And I really also want to acknowledge, and I love the comments from the other council members. Just a couple points. I like the idea that we're going to not build walls, and we're going to tear down walls so we can have a good flow. But I also want to kind of echo what the council member Mana was talking about, and I'm just going to use the term of we want to make sure we move slow to go fast. And we want to make sure we also keep our eyes and our hearts open to other ideas. We already have a vision plan that we've seen, and that kind of locks in some people, and we all have our own little vision on what we think these 3 blocks will look like. We got to make sure that we keep our thoughts open to other ideas that may be actually better than ours, because that's going back to Councilmember Mano's point is, what were they thinking 30 years ago? Why would they ever put that there? Well, the same thing. So let's look into what have other cities done wrong and right on their quest, because a lot of cities have gone down this path and they have done a poor job. And I don't want to be one of those cities, because we're not one of those cities. So those are my only couple points, and I just really appreciate the engagement we have here, and that we're all on the table together, working together. So thank you.
Thank you. This will be my final comment. As we look to progress, and this was mentioned earlier, this project is catalytic for every Salt Laker, and every Salt Laker is going to be investing in our downtown. Also, the regional connectivity is coming in. We have outlined in SB 272 a need for a transportation plan. I would urge SEG Group to work with the city and the county to analyze that flow that we see cross-regionally, and to ensure that whether you're a visitor coming in for NHL, or you're somebody that's trying to access Japantown, or the arts and cultural and vibrancy of our neighborhoods that are found in the downtown, to look at sustainable ecosystems, to look at creating that environmental impact, whether that's through the adaptive reuse of this arena and or transitory passes, so your staff, so that visitors can come access these geographic placements. What we're talking about, and as we've outlined with these questions, is we're cultivating a downtown unlike any other. We're capturing a world-class city for world-class citizens and visitors to come to our landscape. To me, this is a trial before the Olympics and before future events. So thank you for taking a risk on our downtown. This is a long-term investment, and I'm happy that we're all along in this journey together, along with every citizen that's sitting here. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. As chair, I'm going to take the right of last comment. We talked a lot about physical walls, and those are important. I think urban design is, we have a chance to correct an urban design sin here, and I would love to figure out ways for us to stay engaged in the design process without, of course, controlling things. But for me, there's other walls that are much more metaphorical. My neighbors, by virtue of socioeconomic, racial, and ethnic, don't feel welcome in the sports or the arts. And we're protecting all of those. And I know particularly Ashley Smith and I had an amazing conversation about this. So as I look to a partner who would potentially help bring down those other walls that I've had no success, despite all of my work eliminating, I would love to partner with you. And those go to more of those unquantifiable, not tax returnable things, to allow the kid in my district who should be on that ice, even though Latinos aren't known for being on the ice, given him that path, given my kids paths to sports medicine and broadcasting and everything that's going to be in that building, to PR and ticket sales, to giving our families avenues to supporting themselves, and to giving them avenues to entertaining and achieving their American dream. What I've talked about with Ashley, I would love to find ways to make come to fruition through our work with you. And I'm really enthusiastic that you're the partners at the table. I have so much optimism. But I'm going to hold myself accountable as we work to it. And I know you guys are an organization that pursues excellence, and you're going to do the same for yourselves. So Thank you. We have spent way more than 40 minutes. This is a lesson. Next time we're going to do at least an hour and a half, so bring your sleeping bags. Thank you all so much. Council, we're going to move on. We're going to attempt to speed through budget amendment number 5. So Ben, if you could run over here. Yes, sir. We have literally no time for a break. If the press needs us, they're going to have to stalk us. Oh, no, we need Ben. If Ben Ludke can get here as quickly as possible, we'll start talking over them. Yeah, because I don't think Ben can get here until they clear. All right, we are going to jump right into budget amendment number 5. Ben, I'm going to attempt to cut this time down insanely. If you could just take us to the straw poll, and we'll decide if we do anything beyond that.
We can definitely keep it short.
Yes.
There are 5 items that have straw polls requested. We can update the motion sheet for tonight based on which of those items have majority council member support.
Thank you.
The public hearing is tonight, so you could close the public hearing and adopt those time-sensitive items, and then the rest of the items will be for a later date. So I'm going to jump around to the 5 items. The first one is A3. This is a revised proposal. It is still $7 million for upgrading utilities on 2100 South between 700 East and 1100 East. The reconstruction of 2100 South is happening this year, and upgrading the utilities underneath the road is expected to be less disruptive to the neighborhood. It is likely less costly instead of having 2 separate projects, and it would also provide, it would also provide the increased utility capacity for anticipated development on the adjacent properties. The original proposal was for this to be a loan from the general fund. There would be loan agreements with the property owners to pay that back by a certain time. The revised proposal is still $7 million, but instead of a loan, it is proposed to be treated as a general fund capital improvement project. The repayment to the general fund would be through connection agreements, and it is not time certain, whereas the loan agreement may have had more certainty on the timing. The connection agreements are when the developer and the property owner are ready to connect with those upgraded utilities. We just received yesterday a little more information about this tool of the connection agreements, so it's not in the staff report. I can add it into the next one, or I don't know if the attorney's office is ready to speak to it today. But one of the additional steps would be recording against the property that connection agreement so that it is tracked over time and that the future owners, if the property is sold, are notified and on notice of that agreement.
Council, questions, comments? Councilwoman Young.
Just very briefly, thank you. Related to finding a solution that does not involve tearing up 2100 South yet again. So I am very grateful for looking ahead to the future about what those needs are. I think that every single resident, whether they live near, far, or visit the Sugar House Business District, will appreciate this proactive opportunity to do it once and to do it right.
Madam Chair, I've mentioned this thought before. It's one of the most frustrating things to see a new road being torn out. Is there a policy? I think it may. trying to remember the answer to this question. I think I asked this question not too long ago, but is there a policy when we are redoing major streets to look at this already from the beginning? Because I saw even on 300 West, the road being turned out, open up again, not even a month after it was open. So I wonder.
Vehicle to look across departments for what construction projects they have coming up and identifying when there's a street reconstruction and utility upgrades where maybe they're on different times and they could be combined, like in this instance. The city did that successfully on 900 South, where there were 10 projects across 5 departments. They were all consolidated to be done together. I think the 2100 South funding in front of you is an example of how we could do this better and more proactively, but the capital asset plan would be perfect for that.
Thank you. So who would care to propose a straw poll for supporting this?
I would like to, Chair, propose a straw poll that the council supports the proposal for the 2100 South utility upgrade between 700 East and 1100 East as detailed in the staff report.
Show your feelings. That is a unanimous 7 thumbs up.
Moving on, the next one is item A8. This was also revised from the original transmittal, and the update is in the staff report. This is North Temple Bridge over the Jordan River. The original request was $165,000 to replace rocks on the riverbank underneath the bridge. The project would replace them with much larger boulders that are uninviting for human activity. This is meant to be a deterrent for unsanctioned access underneath the bridge. It would also have a slight environmental benefit as well as to the structure of the bridge, because this would stabilize the riverbank, and it would also reduce the soil erosion around the supports of the bridge. The revised request is $320,000 total, and these additional costs are from 3 things. There's $34,000 to extend the rock and boulder treatments on the riverbank to 50 feet on either side of the bridge. There is $60,000 for an updated project scope. So it's in more places than originally planned, and $60,000 for fencing. The fencing is a mix, permanent and temporary. There's a list in the staff report of several locations of where it would be permanent versus where it would be temporary. I won't read them out now. I did want to point out that Rocky Mountain Power owns the Gadsby Trailhead parking lot next to the North Temple Bridge over the Jordan River. So because that is owned by Rocky Mountain Power and it would be temporarily closed, it does not have to go through the legal process of a park closure as if this was a city-owned park. So point of clarification there.
I'd like to ask about the appropriateness of us doing it, given the Fair Park reinvestment zone and issues of jurisdiction. It occurs to me that our tax increment is being diverted there, and this might be something that it seems to me should fall under the purview of the new, but I might be totally off base here. But I would really love to get answers as to if it's appropriate for us to be spending this money given that jurisdictional shift. Council.
What we are seeing under this bridge is not great, and I appreciate the administration and for helping me understand what we were trying to accomplish with this, and seeing that there is a greater goal, maybe down the line when more information comes to the table as far as water goes and how water flows, and we don't want to create any potential for flooding or whatnot. But I think this is a good use. Granted, your question, Madam Chair, is a good one, and I would like to get answer for that too. But I believe that the urgency of this site is important, and the amount of basically the Jordan River Trail at this moment is unusable, and this requires a fast issue. And I believe under our bridge and in these banks, we have some jurisdiction, but I guess we'll let smarter people to answer this.
I don't know that I can answer the jurisdictional question. Andrew Johnston from the administration. I don't know that I can answer the jurisdictional question and the timing and all that. What we do know is to facilitate a more quick intervention there, we did need to front the money to get going on the contracts for the bridge work and the fencing. It doesn't necessarily preclude us from requesting for reimbursement or other sort of help later on. It's a timing issue.
If we could make that part of the straw poll, that would allay a lot of fears. We lost jurisdiction there. I would like to make sure that we don't overstep and are good neighbors. Okay, so then would you like to do it? If you do the straw poll, will you please include
Yeah.
seeking future reimbursement for jurisdictional issues?
I would like to suggest a straw poll to support 8 North Temple John River Bridge rear bank determined rock replacement and ask the administration to pursue the opportunity for reimbursement if appropriate.
Share your feelings. All right. All right, Ben, you got to move us quicker. If we have got 5 straw polls, we got to move quick. Sorry, it is totally our fault for but that last thing needed to be done.
3 more. The next one is a holding account. It is proposed to be $15 million from general fund balance one time to a CIP holding account for to be determined capital maintenance projects. So you may recall in your annual retreat discussion, as well as the financial risks and reserves briefing and your letter of budget priorities to the mayor, that capital maintenance projects was one of the top priorities. Some examples of what this could go to, these are not recommended, this is to be determined in the future, but some examples are traffic safety infrastructure and signage, pavement maintenance like street reconstructions, and the 400 South Bridge rebuild over the Jordan River. The council could consider these in tandem with the annual CIP funding when you discuss those over the summer.
All right.
Madam Chair.
Discussion, good.
Oh,
Good.
I was just going to straw poll.
I also was going to do that.
I just straw poll that we support.
Oh, question first then.
Okay. So how will this work? We just the actual projects will they come back to us for? Okay.
Yeah,
then-
it's a holding account, so you would need to approve releasing the funds and to the projects that it goes to.
Right, straw poll away.
Madam Chair, I move that we, approve this as
That is
recommended.
7 unanimous.
Thank you.
Stealing my straw poll.
See how efficient we are?
That takes us to D5. This is the City Housing Authority. They do a payment in lieu of taxes called a pilot. This is an increase from $85,000 to $125,000, so a true up of what's currently estimated. The straw poll is requested to facilitate affordable housing rental assistance.
Council questions, comments? Yes, ma'am.
What letter is this one, Ben?
This is D5.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone ready to propose a
So
straw poll?
it's budget neutral.
Correct. It is the $40,000 in and then the $1,000
Madam
out.
Chair, I propose that we support D5.
Show your feelings. That is 7 in support. Last one, dang, Ben, we're good.
The very last one, this is a potential council added item. It is I1, the micro shelter community site preparation costs and electricity operations. The total is $294,000, and this is from the holding account. Originally, you put $1.5 million into a holding account. $500,000 of that was released and sent to the state as a reimbursement for operating costs. This $294,000 is to reimburse the city for costs incurred for upgrading mostly the electrical utilities at the site in order to handle the operations and to pay for the electricity since the site, through the temporary land use regulation, it was supposed to originally end in April. It's been extended for a few months, and so there's additional costs for the electricity.
So there's still around 700,000 in that holding account?
After this vote, there would still be $706,000. One idea a couple council members discussed was adding $100,000 from the holding account in addition to this 294. Since this is the last budget amendment of the year, that additional 100,000 would provide flexibility for the administration to respond to unexpected costs or situations. It could be specific to the micro shelter, or you could make it a little broader related to homelessness.
As long as it's related to homelessness, I love it. Anyone ready for a straw poll?
So what's the number that it needs to be with the additional 100,000?
394?
394.
Madam Chair, I propose that we move $394,000 from the holding account for the micro shelter community to pay for the electrical costs and additional homelessness related items, needs.
So your feelings? That is 7 in approval. Thank you so much, Ben. We'll revisit this at a future. Thank you for being so amazing. Let's move on to the authorizing assistance for Fairmont Heights. We've got Allison Rowland coming and Tammy Hunsaker. It's been a while since Tammy's been at our table. I feel like we should give her a round of applause and to welcome her back. I see Tony Milner coming up with her too. This is like Cannes Best Greatest Hits coming up. All right. We're reclaiming time here really well, folks, but if we could be succinct and quick, yes, all the gratitude.
And I will be succinct in my introduction as well, Madam
Thank you.
Chair. This item is in front of the council right now because the developer is trying to meet the deadline for LIHTC, 9% LIHTC housing credits. So the request is for speedy action on this one. A public hearing is required because there is an informal public benefits analysis and a proposal for below market rate assistance to this project. The public hearing is scheduled for May 21st, and council action is tentatively scheduled for June 4th. There are a series of straw polls that the administration would like to know the results of before moving on. They are listed in your staff report at the end in the policy questions section. So I will turn it over to the CAN All-Stars.
Thank you. We will be quick and brief. Oop, on better. Okay, thank you. Can we go to the next slide? So the property that we were talking about is 0.81 acres on the corner of Simpson Avenue and 1100 East across from Fairmont Park. The acquisition price is just about $7 million. Next slide. The project that the development team is planning is approximately 110 units of senior housing to be developed in 2 phases. Approximately 80% of the units will be affordable to 80% AMI and below, and about 50% of the units will be affordable to 50% AMI and below. The development team is led by Housing Assistant Management Enterprise, which is the nonprofit development arm of the Housing Authority of Salt Lake City, in partnership with Lincoln